Hey, what's up everyone? It's your girl Brain Shanae, and today I'm here to share with you the best books I've read in 2024 by Black authors. Now, I do this every single year, and I was able to narrow it down to at least my top 10 books that I really enjoyed and loved. Now, mind you, these books that I'm going to be sharing with you all, a lot of them have content warnings, but I will share with you the content warnings as I go over each and every book that I had chosen as my top reads by Black authors of 2024. So let's go. So for the first book that I had chosen, it was hard. Now, mind you, when I had created this list, it was really hard for me, and so I was like, okay, what were my top 10? Because I really could go on for days and days expressing to you how much I enjoy these authors, and so I literally had to narrow it down to 10 because I feel like it would have been like a part 2 or whatever, or part 3, because that's how great my reading had been for 2024 is regarding Black authors. So the first book that I'm going to introduce to you all is Black Girl, You Are Atlas. This is by Renee Watson, and it has the fine art by Akua Holmes. Now, this book has nothing but poems in it, and it's regarding Renee Watson's life and her journey through a kid into adulthood. I really enjoyed this book of poetry. I wanted to read a lot more poetry in 2024, which I read, but just not enough. So in 2025, I plan on reading a little bit more poetry by Black authors. And I really enjoyed this book, especially the visuals was absolutely amazing, and I think that's what sets this book off, because it just does a fantastic job with the art and expressing, you know, the meaning of each poem and in its own light, in its own shape and form. Like even with this, it says, sisterhood haiku too. The wise women know nothing can heal without love, no growth without care. So each and every poem, it's regarding Renee Watson's life. It even talks about turning 13 and this alone of her being 13 years old. And I'll even, read the synopsis for you just in case, but I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars because I absolutely loved it. It says, in this semi-autobiographical collection of poems, Renee Watson writes about her experience growing up as a young Black girl at the intersections of race, class, and gender. Using a variety of poetic forms, from haiku to free verse, Watson shares recollections of her childhood in Portland, tender odes to the Black women in her life, and urgent calls for Black girls to step into their power. And then it goes on to say, Black Girl, You Are Atlas encourages young readers to embrace their future with a strong sense of sisterhood and celebration. With full color art by celebrated fine artist Akua Holmes throughout, this collection offers guidance and is a gift for anyone who reads it. So once again, I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. This was, of course, a fast read, but within the pages and the pictures itself, it's very powerful, and I just highly recommend that you read this book. And so, yes, this is definitely why this is on my list. I recommend that you definitely check it out. Even if you don't buy it, I truly believe that you should definitely utilize your local library, because it's there. I'm sure you can get it somewhere. I know you can, especially your local library. Especially at my library, they have it, and I love this book, and I'm so glad it was displayed for this month as well. But yes, even here, Nikki Giovanni even blurbed it right here, which rest in power. She, I think everybody knows she recently passed away last year in 2024, which was crazy to me, and I'm like, I've always wanted to meet her, and just hearing that it brought me to tears, and it inspired me to read more of her work. But anyways, the blurb says, Renee Watson in these poems has beautifully embraced the joys of being a girl, and especially the love of being a sister. This atlas holds our hearts up. You will love it, Nikki Giovanni. So yes, if Nikki Giovanni even stated that this book was amazing, I can't steer you wrong. Nikki Giovanni can't steer you wrong. So yeah, this is one book that I highly recommend that you read. It's a fast read, but even if you read it to like a child or a nephew, a grandchild, whoever, a niece, nephew, whoever it may be, this book is phenomenal and very inspirational. So definitely check this out, but love this. Loved it. All right, and so this next book that I'm really like excited to share with you all. Now, this is a middle grade, mind you, and I just really enjoyed it, and it's part of a series. And so this book is Black Star. This is by Kwame Alexander. This is the second book in the Door of No Return series. I think there's going to be at least one more book. So in the first book, we are introduced to Kofi and his journey, you know, especially this is during the slave trade. And so now with this second book in the series, we are featured his granddaughter, who who is set on becoming the first female pitcher to play professional baseball, which I found very, very amazing and just cute overall. But with this particular with this book, I really enjoyed it. I borrowed it from my local library. I do planning on getting my own physical copy because I do have the first book, and so I need to get the second one and put it in my hands and to have it as part of my collection, because I not only want to own it, but I want to be able to have it where my kids have access to it and they know that they are able to get a book like that, you know? But anyways, let me give you the synopsis too. So it says, the riveting second book in the #1 New York bestselling Door of No Return trilogy stars Kofi's granddaughter, Charlie, who's set on becoming the first female pitcher to play professional ball, but who soon has to contend with the tensions about to boil over in her segregated town. So it goes on to say, you can't protect her from knowing the truth is all we have. And it goes on to say, 12-year-old Charlie Kofi is many a granddaughter, a best friend, and probably the best pitcher in all of Lee's mill. Set on becoming the first female pitcher to play professional ball, Charlie doesn't need reminders from her best friend, Cool Willie Green, to know that she has lofty dreams for a black girl in the American South. Even so, Nana Kofi's thrilling stories about courageous ancestors and epic journeys make it impossible not to dream big. She knows he has so many more to tell, but according to her parents, she isn't old enough to know about certain things like what happened to Booker Preston that one night in Great Bridge, and why she can never play on the brand new real deal baseball field on the other side of town. I feel like as a kid, you really don't know until you have that experience, you know, about segregation and wondering like, why can't I go to this new field? I just want to play baseball. And there's a whole wide world out there that kids don't even understand. I mean, even when I was a kid and I didn't even know I was going through those experiences till I got older, and even my mom expressed it to me of things, and you know, you did this and we experienced that, and like, what? And so she didn't know. And I think her parents, they were trying to help, like try to explain to her in the best possible way, even though there is no best possible way to express to them and explain to them why there is segregation and why, you know, people don't like them because of the color of their skin. I mean, those are hard conversations to have. And you know, it's 2025 today, but those are still conversations that we still have today regarding why, you know, with our children and especially our black sons and our black daughters of why the world is the way it is, and how they don't treat us fairly, they don't treat us equally, you know, and whatnot. Those are conversations that we still have to this very day. Now, we may not have segregation, but we still have issues in today's society, especially in America, regarding race and, you know, and how people treat black people in America. So we still have those issues to this day. And so it says, when Charlie challenges a neighborhood bully to a game at the church picnic, she knows she can win, even with her ragtag team. But when the picnic spills over onto their ball field, she makes a fateful decision. A child cannot protect herself if she does not know her history, and Charlie's choice brings consequences she never could have imagined. And then it goes on into saying, in this thrilling second book of the Door of No Return trilogy, set during the turbulent segregation era and the beginning of the Great Migration, Kwame Alexander weaves a spellbinding story of struggle, determination, and the infallible faith of an American family. So there's a lot of there's historical fiction in this as well, of course, and it's middle grade and you have to deal with sports. There's this book is written in like prose as well, so it's also a very quick read that I think everyone will enjoy. I read it I plan on reading it to my kids as well. I have my daughter read it. I just think it's a great book, and Kwame does not disappoint. So if you haven't heard of this trilogy, I highly recommend that you do so. The third book, I don't think is not going to come out maybe until who knows. I don't think there has been any a release date for it just yet, but definitely read the first book in the series and then read this one, because I'm telling y'all this is why it's on my list. It's such a great book. It has a lot of representation, especially from a middle grade point of view, and you're looking from the lens of a child. I think that's very important, and it just putting yourself in a child's point of view and to put him in their shoes. I just really enjoyed this book, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. So yes, this is on my list, and if y'all haven't picked it up, I highly recommend that you do so, because you are missing out. Now, this third book I truly loved. I feel like a lot of us have seen it all over the place as far as social media, as far as TikTok. I know there's a lot of mixed reviews for this particular book, but I personally enjoyed it, and I highly recommend that you read this. It was so freaking good. And that is Immortal Dark. This is by Tigist Gurma. Love this book. Like dark academia, black vampires, a black cast, like it's so freaking good. I really enjoyed every single moment of this book. As far as things, it has a lot to do with family and secrets and a lot of heartbreak and everything in that nature, and trying to find a loved one, you know. And there is like a little bit of spiciness, just a little sprinkle, you know, nothing too crazy. But I really enjoyed every single moment of this book. And even on the front it says, "For the black girls who've always marveled at the dark beauty of vampires, the immortals look like us in this one." And it says, "And for my herbaceous girls who dare to occupy new and wondrous spaces, hold your head up and let them see you." So I really enjoyed this book. And then for the content warnings, it says, "Immortal Dark explores the savage world of vampires and the humans who try to survive it. It features some heavy elements such as parental abuse, blood drinking, death, gore, murder, sexual content, strong language, suicide ideation, and violence. Readers, please take note before you grab your invitation. The gates of Uxley University are now open." So once again, like, it's been a few years how publishers and stuff have made sure that content warnings and you know, just content in general of like giving us a heads up of what we're going to experience when we read them, and it does exactly that. Like, a lot of stuff had taken place in this book, so just be prepared and be mindful. Like, once you start reading this book, it gets dark, but I really enjoy this. I know some people, I honestly think that this was marketed as YA. I think that was a mistake in my opinion. I highly think that this is full-blown adult. Like, I don't think there's any YA, there's nothing YA about this particular book. So that was my one thing that I just did not like, but that has nothing to do with the author. That's not the author's fault. The author and her writing was spot on and spectacular. I love that there's like history aspect in this book as well. And I don't know if I mentioned, this is fantasy, mind you. So this is a fantasy book. I'm a huge fantasy reader, if you have not known that yet. But I really enjoyed this book. It's really good. It has its moments of being like a slow paced, but it wasn't slow to the point where I was bored. So just keep that in mind. So it's slow going, but it progresses. It's not like a slow, like, oh my gosh, when is this going to get to the good part? It's not like that. So just letting you know right now, I would not be telling y'all no lies. But I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. If you haven't picked this book up yet, highly recommend that you do so. It's so freaking good, and I had a great time reading it. And black vampires, that's the one thing that sold me the most regarding this book, was black vampires in it. Need I say more? So yeah, I love this book, highly recommended, and it was a fun time. So yeah, this is why it was added to my list for this year. So there is this one. This next book is going to be a nonfiction book. I really enjoyed this so much. I do plan on getting a physical copy for myself. When I had read this book, I listened to the audio and I borrowed it from my local library. And so we have The Message. This is by Ta-Nehisi Coates. This was so freaking phenomenal. I know some people may not have liked it. I enjoyed it. I think we all are aware, or I hope that we are aware of the circumstances that's been currently happening in Palestine for the past year. He actually traveled, Ta-Nehisi Coates himself traveled. He wanted to see firsthand with his own eyes of what was happening in Palestine, and not relying on the media, because the media here, especially in the US, is very deceitful, and they don't give us the real facts. They only give us what they want us to know, and and they alter a lot of things of what they state in the media. And so with Ta-Nehisi Coates, he has an explanation. He's giving us the forefront of what is happening in Palestine, and how the people in Palestine, how in Gaza, how they are treated, especially on a regular basis, and how there is still segregation. Like, he was explaining to us in the book of how literally they can't even walk on certain roads, on certain streets, and they always have to make sure they have their papers and whatnot. And so just getting from his experiences and his point of view, it says a lot, and it just tells you of how you can't rely on some medias, because they're not giving us the real facts and the real story of what is currently happening in Palestine, which I really appreciated this book so much. And I really appreciated Ta-Nehisi Coates for explaining to us in detail of what he saw with his own eyes. And then he says he takes readers along with him to Columbia, South Carolina, where he meets an educator whose job is threatened for teaching one of Coates' own books. There, he discovers a community of mostly white supporters who were transformed by the racial reckoning of 2020. But he also explores the backlash to this reckoning and the deeper myths of the community, a capital of the Confederacy, with statues of segregationists looming over its public squares. And then it goes on to say, and in Palestine, Coates discovers the devastating gap between the narratives we've accepted and the clashing reality of life on the ground. He meets with activists and descendants, Israelis and Palestinians, the old who remember their dispossessions on two continents, and the young who have only known struggle and disillusionment. Hopefully I'm saying that right. He travels into Jerusalem, the heart of Zionist mythology, and to the occupied territories, where he sees reality the myths is meant to hide. It is this hidden story that draws him in and profoundly changes him, and makes the war that would soon come all the more devastating. And then it goes on to say, written at a dramatic moment in American and global life, this work from one of the country's most important writers is about the urgent need to untangle ourselves from the destructive nationalist myths that shape our world and our own souls, and embrace the liberating power of even the most difficult truths. And, you know, the U.S. played a part in what has been occurring in Palestine. Our government has been aiding them, Israel with weapons. And the government has taken part in what's been occurring in Gaza. And it's heartbreaking, because these are human beings. Palestine has been demolished, has been decimated. Lives have been taken. Children's lives have been taken. It's just, they keep on doing everything. They keep throwing bombs at them every chance that they get. And it's just like, what the heck? And it's like, and those bombs, those are all from the US. And it's devastating. It's really devastating. And it's just crazy how, like, America, we are doing this. And this is genocide. And I know there's going to be people where they may agree with me, or you may disagree with me, but that's the whole point of having a discussion. We are going to agree to disagree on it. I truly believe that what they're committing, and the U.S. government is committing, is genocide. Honestly, in The Hague, they considered, what Biden to be a war criminal, because he's also aiding Israel into killing more and more people, innocent lives. You know what I mean? It's just a mess. But this is not just the only time that this has happened. History is repeating itself over and over and over again. And I know when I was at work, and we always have these little random questions that we have at work just to keep us going and just to put a smile on our faces. And it says, what if you had one power or superpower or whatever, or one wish that you wanted to come true, what would it be? And I said, the ability to change the past. And I feel like I said that because I would love to have the ability to change the past, because a lot of things could be different. It could be better for everyone. And the only reason why the past is the way it is and how messed up it is because of the decisions that other people have made for other people, if that makes sense. And so it's just heartbreaking of what is still occurring to this very day. And that's why I enjoyed reading the message. I think it gives you a better insight of what is occurring in Palestine, and not relying on what social media says and what the U.S. government may be stating regarding the situation and the circumstances. So I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I feel like if you want to know more about the situation of what is happening in Palestine and what is happening in Gaza, I highly recommend that you read this book. And there's many more that you can read and to read as well regarding Palestine and the 100 years of history regarding Palestine and Israel as a whole. There is a history of it as well, y'all. What has been occurring with Israel and Palestine is nothing new. This is just history repeating itself over and over and over again. And once again, we have a government. I'm in the U.S. We have a government that constantly talks about, history, and we can't have it be repeated, but they're still repeating it. They're still providing actions. They're still acting upon things that is making history repeat itself over and over again, like they have not learned from the past. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I highly recommend that you read it. Anything by Ta-Nehisi Coates, I really enjoy. He's a wonderful author, a wonderful writer. His books are very insightful and very inspirational and inspiring, and his books are very eye-opening as well. So yeah, this is another book that I definitely added to the list, and I highly recommend that you pick it up as well. Now, this next book, this is a YA thriller. This was one of my anticipated reads of 2024, and I really enjoyed this book. Anything written by this author, I'm always going to read her work. I loved Ace of Spades, so I had a feeling I was going to enjoy this book. Like, I haven't seen it circulating enough, but I'm here to spread the word about this fantastic book, and that is Where Sleeping Girls Lie. This is by Farida Bigayimide. Love this book, and also the cover is giving. So I love this. Now, there's a lot of stuff taking place, but it's so freaking good. It keeps you on the edge of, it kept me on the edge of my seat. There was a lot of things that I did not see coming at all whatsoever in this book. I was constantly trying to add things up. I was putting 2 and 2 together. I was like, what's going on? What's the whole plot? Until I figured out eventually when certain things were being revealed within this book itself. Now, in this book, there are content warnings in this as well. It says, Where Sleeping Girls Lie is a work of fiction, but it deals with many real issues, including sexual assault, rape, suicide, and suicidal ideation, grief, and death of family members, including parents. And then it says, for more information, please go to this website. So it definitely gives you all of those content warnings as well. And then also we have a letter from the author, which I will gladly share with you all. I think reading the letter from the author, it speaks volumes into the author itself, and also to what story you're going to get into. So it says, Dear reader, Where Sleeping Girls Lie is about a lot of things. It's about the necessity of community and the importance and joy of platonic relationships. It's about the ghosts that haunt us and that we haunt back. It's about the many valid ways we respond to painful experiences. More than anything, this book is about survival. And as you might notice from the sizable gap between the release of Ace of Spades and the release of the second book, it took me many years to write this in a way that felt like I would be honoring the story, the characters, and any readers who might see themselves in the story. Also, second books are just bloody hard. And then it goes on to say, when asked about whether I write myself into my stories, I always answer that I don't because I'm more of an observer than a memoirist. However, Where Sleeping Girls Lie is definitely one of my most personal stories to date. While I have not inserted myself exactly into any of these characters, some experiences and feelings depicted are things I unfortunately relate to deeply. I wanted this book to showcase a main character who lives a full life despite any past traumas, much like I tried to, and so in the spirit of this, WSGL, Where Sleeping Girls Lie, is not just one kind of story. It is part suspense mystery, part contemporary romance, coming of age, part anti-hero journey. When I write stories, I'm always writing to specific feelings at the time, as well as people and places. With Ace of Spades, I was primarily writing to queer Black young adults attending PWIs and being pulled under by the weight of white supremacy, drowning while feeling unseen and unheard. With Where Sleeping Girls Lie, I write to young girls who feel so much anger and need desperately for someone or something to tell them their rage is important and that the capacity to heal from deep wounds is not at all impossible. While writing this book, I kept thinking of Aliwatu and Salu and women like her who deserved so much more than this world gives them. Where Sleeping Girls Lie is my attempt at not only healing some of my own wounds, but also helping others seek out the tools to do so as well. I want this book to be so many things, but of course, what I want is not as important as what this book might mean to you. And so I ask that you take care as always while reading, and I hope you enjoy the characters and the story as much as I enjoyed writing them. With love, Farida. So, with that alone, when I read that story or read this letter from the author, I hope that you felt it through her words of what she was saying with this book and how this book talks about a lot of things, a lot of trauma that we go through on a regular basis and what we may experience, especially Black girls, you know what I mean? So I really enjoyed this book. I don't want to say much more about it. I really want you to get into this book, even if you have to borrow it from your local library. I'm going to keep on saying it, to support your local library, wherever, whatever. Or if you want to purchase it, to definitely do so. I don't want to say much about it. I just want you to have the experience that I experienced when I was reading this book. It was like an eye-opener on a lot of things. It made me think of things that happened in my past that I didn't acknowledge at the time. And then I thought about it, and sometimes I think about it to this very day on what things could have been done and how things could have been different or can be, or, still could be different, This book was very heartfelt. A lot of things are going to be taking place in this book, so just be prepared. It's definitely can be very heavy. There's no type of light or fluffiness in this book whatsoever. It is very hard hitting, and it gives you a lot about regarding life lessons. I've said this in my other videos regarding this list of mine. A lot of life lessons that I have experienced throughout all these books that I've read, and I think that you all will love these books, and even if you don't, you will probably have a great experience or have an eye-opener or an epiphany of certain things that may have occurred in your life or is occurring today. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. Once again, this is YA, but I promise you it's still such a very great book, and I highly recommend that you do so, that you read it and see for yourself what this book has in store. So here's another one that is very hard hitting, and it gives you a nice emotional roller coaster, but it's worth it, and I highly recommend that you read it. This next one is also another emotional roller coaster. It's going to give you an emotional roller coaster. You're going to be on an emotional roller coaster, let me say that. But it was really good. Anything by Jas Hammonds I'm going to read. The writing is phenomenal. They are an amazing author. If you haven't read We Deserve Monuments by Jas Hammonds, I highly recommend that you do so. This is their next book that came out, in 2024, and I just really enjoyed it and I loved it. Now, mind you, there's going to be some content warnings in this as well, but the book is Thirsty by Jas Hammonds. Love this book. I highly recommend that you read it. And as far as the content warnings goes, I will tell you right now, so that you are aware. And then it goes on to say here, Thirsty includes depictions of alcohol addiction, self-hatred, suicidal ideation, racial microaggressions, transphobic rhetoric, and non-consensual outing. For a full list of content warnings, please visit josshammonds.com. And this says, please read this story with care and perhaps a cup of tea as well. So there's the main character's name is Blake, and she's trying to get into this society of girls, you know, to feel like she belongs or whatever. And she's with her best friend who pretty much is like her girlfriend at this point. So there's queer rep in here, so just be aware. Which I really enjoyed that aspect as well. And she, in order to be noticed or whatever, it seems like they like her being drunk. And so she's at this point where, okay, if I drink or whatever, maybe they'll accept me. But it becomes dangerous. And one of Blake's best friends tell her, like, hey, you need to stop. This is very dangerous. And she's like, well, she likes me doing this, yada, yada, yada. And she tells me that's a great idea. And she's like, what kind of friend would tell you that getting drunk and almost hurting yourself is a good thing? So it was a lot of eye openers in this book as well. And it also talks about what Blake's relationship with her mother, because Blake's mom is white, and sometimes Blake in this book, she has these moments of where she can't talk to her mom because her mom has no idea how she doesn't know how to even talk to her mom about this because she's never experienced it. Only Blake has experienced it. She is like, Mom, I'm Black. Like, I don't know how I could explain to you how. So it's just certain experiences that she's going through that she doesn't feel comfortable, and she doesn't feel like her mother will understand it whatsoever because she never had these experiences. She never had to go through this. So this was really freaking good. It's a lot, y'all. It's a lot. This is also YA as well, but it's a lot, and this is a lot of hard-hitting stuff that is very realistic. A lot of these books that I'm sharing with you have a lot of realism type of situations that are, like I said, they're real. It's real shit. So just be aware and be prepared. But I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a high rating. I did a book review for this book as well. I did a book review for this as well. So like after this video, I will definitely leave a link up above so you can check out all those book reviews, because like I said, I really enjoy these books, and I really mean it when I say that. So yeah, this is another one that I really enjoyed, and I think y'all should definitely check it out. This next book is historical fiction. This is the first book that I read by this author, and I plan on reading more by him because it was just phenomenal. And that is The American Daughters. This is by Maurice Carlos Ruffin. I really enjoyed this book so much. There's a lot that I could say, but I do not want to spoil it for y'all. I really do not. Like, there's a girl, she is enslaved who is a businessman along with her mother, and with that alone, there is a point in time where she meets a lot of women, and she realizes that they are a society. There are a society of Black women coming together in order to stir some shit up, right? And I'm like, yes, like this is so freaking good. Like, I'll even read the synopsis. So it says, Addie, a curious, sharp-witted girl, and Senate, her fierce mother, are inseparable. Enslaved to a businessman in the French Quarter of New Orleans, the pair spend their days dreaming of a loving future and reminiscing about their family's rebellious and storied history. When mother and daughter are separated, Addie is left hopeless and directionless until she stumbles into the Mockingbird Inn and meets Lenore, a free Black woman with whom she becomes fast friends. Lenore invites Addie to join a clandestine society of spies called the Daughters. With the courage instilled in her by Senate, and with help from these strong women, Addie learns how to put herself first. So begins her journey toward liberation and imagining a new future. The American Daughters is a novel of hope and triumph that reminds us what is possible when a community bands together to fight for their freedom. May I say more? Like, may I say more? You see that I tabbed it up because I was just in it. Like, I was underlining it, writing it. I was doing the most with this, and I highly recommend that you read it. And anything by Maurice, I'm going to read. Like, this was, like I said, this is my first book by Maurice Carlos Ruffin, and I enjoyed this and I loved it. Highly recommend it. So I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I suggest that you pick this up as well. I'm not going to say more. You got to find out for yourself. I feel like with that synopsis alone, it speaks for itself, right? So there is that book. And then, so we're moving on to the next one. which is Fate-bound. This is a fantasy book. Really enjoyed this book. This is by Sarah L. Arifi. There is queer rep in this book. There's a whole new world in this. Anything by Sarah L. Arifi, I'm going to be reading. This is a new book this is the first book in the series. The second one is going to be coming out sometime in 2025. I think maybe in February or March, I don't remember, but this book is phenomenal. You learn a lot of things. There's some betrayal in there as well. There's a lot of things going on with this book, but I promise you it's so freaking good. You can't go wrong with Sarah L. Arifi. I promise you that this book is absolutely amazing, and I'll even read the synopsis for you. So it says, Yirin was born on the battlefield, lived on the battlefield, and one day she knew she'd die on the battlefield. As a warrior in the Elven army, Yirin has known nothing but violence her whole life. Her sister Lettel is trying to make a living as a diviner, seeking prophecies of a better future. When a fatal mistake leads to Yirin's exile from the Elven lands, both sisters are forced into the terrifying wilderness beyond their borders. There they encounter the impossible, the Fae court. The Fae haven't been seen for a millennium, but now Yirin and Lettel are thrust into their seductive world, torn between their loyalty to each other, their elven homeland, and their hearts. And it says, Fate-bound is the first book in an enchanting new trilogy from the Sunday Times best-selling author of The Final Strife, which is a whole nother series that I really enjoy, but we're not going to get into that. But I want you to read this, y'all. I want you to be immersed in this freaking book. It's so freaking good. I really enjoyed it. I loved it so much I got another edition to go with it because first off, I love Sarah, and then I love her writing. But this is really good. This is another fantasy book, and it's really good. It's good. I think that y'all will love this. So definitely check this one out. And so I feel like I can go on and on about these books, so I don't want to take up a lot of y'all's time. Let me go on to the next one, which is another fantasy book that I really enjoyed. This is by Kaylin Barron, and that is Sleep Like Death. Now, this is like a Snow White retelling, but it's more than just a retelling. It's about a relationship between a mother and a daughter, about lies that are constantly taking place and trust that is just broken, which is a real thing, especially in the Black community, as far as a lot of lies and family issues that are never brought to the table or acknowledged. So I really enjoyed this one as well. Anything by Kaylin Barron, I really love. I love the writing style that she has. It's just phenomenal. There's even a letter by the author that I'm hoping that I can read to y'all. It's in cursive, so I'm not sure if I can give it. It says, I am thrilled to share Sleep Like Death with you all. I'm so grateful for your support as we return to the world of fractured fairy tales. So this is like a fractured fairy tale in a sense, because it's like a retelling. But there's so much of this book that I think you'll really enjoy. Even with the synopsis, I'll read that. It says, Princess Eve was raised with one purpose, to destroy the knights, an evil sorcerer who terrorizes Queen's Bridge with his wicked magic. Far too many of her subjects have been devastated by the knight's trickery, but Eve's own unique magic, the ability to conjure weapons from nature, makes her a worthy adversary. As she approaches her 17th birthday, Eve is ready to battle, but her mother, Queen Regina, has been acting bizarrely, talking to a strange mirror alone every night. Then a young man, claiming to be the knight's messenger, appears and shares a shocking truth about Eve's past. Unsure of who to trust or what to do next, Eve must find the courage to fight. But will it be enough to save her family and her queendom? Just with that alone, there's a lot there's a lot of stuff that's being said in that synopsis, but there's some things that I think you're going to have to find out for yourself after you read it. But this was just really good. I highly recommend that you read this. Sleep Like Death is like a Sleeping Beauty, or not Sleeping Beauty, a Snow White retelling. So definitely check this one out. And so the last and final book that I'm really excited to read with y'all, or to share with y'all, not read, but to share. This book it's a nonfiction book. This book is regarding a lot about faith and religion in itself, especially when it comes to Christianity. So just keep that in mind. And so for this next book, I even had like a printout of some of the phrases and stuff that I really enjoyed while I was reading it. I don't have the physical copy because I got it from my local library. So just be mindful of that. And so the book that this last and final book that I want to share with you is The Day God Saw Me as Black. This is by D. Danielle Thomas. And the cover is beautiful. It is giving. This book was it was an eye-opener to a lot of things, especially when it comes to Christianity in America, especially when it comes to religion. There is a lot of hypocrisy of it all. I remember I was raised in the church. I remember we would go to first service and we go to second service. My mom had me participate in a lot of things, miming and the flag team, a whole bunch of things. And my mom was also a Sunday school teacher. She was my Sunday school teacher at one point, and that was just very awkward, and very just weird. And so I had to be perfect and not be a kid, pretty much. I could, but anyways, this book was really good. Like, I'm thinking about the words that I read, and it's making me understand some things about like Christianity, and honestly of how like I feel like I'm on a spiritual journey at this moment and at this time. I'm still trying to learn certain things. I'm trying to discover certain things about a lot of things outside of just Christianity alone, due to the fact that Christianity has a lot of corruption, like a lot of corruption in it, and in and of itself, and the history of Christianity of itself as well is very problematic in my opinion. But I had taken a few passages from the book because I had taken pictures of it, because I'm like, oh, I won't be able to have the physical book because I got it from my library. But it says, I'll just read this one. This is on page 68, just in case if you do have it. It goes on to say, hold on. What is liberation for Black people in the realization that American capitalism will never enlarge itself to include our success? Perhaps it is not that our lives do not matter to God, but that she is wholly disinterested in helping us to merely darken the face of an establishment that neither serves nor aids in the betterment of her people. That is not to say God is anti-wealth. It is to say that she has better things to do with her time than enable us to fight for a liberation that seeks to gain access to and acquire the material trappings we've assigned as whites only. How do we fight for our liberation in the wake that God is either disinterested in advancing capitalism at best or disinterested in us at worst? And then it goes on to say, maybe it's time for us to admit that white supremacy will never pay us what they owe us. They never intended to. They didn't even believe they owed us respect as human beings when they began and continued the transatlantic slave trade. The literal and figurative blood of our bodies runs deep into the roots of this nation. It is time to shake ourselves from the slumber that tearful prayers lacking actionable faith, tongues that skillfully echo standard English, and earning debt-laden college degrees and an employer-matched 401k are edging us closer to our 40 acres of restitution and a mule named justice. So it goes on to say a lot about like everything. Like if you think about Christianity and like during the transatlantic slave trade, and how they were like spewing and like forcing the Bible in their throats and in their lives, and making it seem like God doesn't love y'all are nothing but sinners. And it's just like, wow, the hypocrisy of it all. It makes you think about a lot of things. A lot of things. And here's another one. Here it says, internalized anti-Blackness is a hell of a drug, especially when the Bible is your most faithful dealer. Anti-Blackness is the actions, verbiage, and or behaviors that marginalize Black people. The spectrum of anti-Blackness is expansive from the nuance of workplace microaggressions to 10 Black folks being murdered at a top friendly supermarket on the east side of Buffalo, New York. Anti-Blackness is white people angry that The Little Mermaid, a fictional cartoon character, is cast by a Black singer and actress, Halle Bailey. Anti-Blackness is being aware of the differential success advancement and experience of Black people, not caring about it and simultaneously taunting Black folks for their continued deficits because of it. Anti-Blackness is no respecter of person, gender, or age. We spend lifetimes with the accumulated negative impacts of these acts, where the constant robbery of our personhood is as American as apple pie. When we look to our faith for refuge and deliverance, we are too often met with affirmation that our suffering is par for the course of the cursed descendants of Canaan. So when I'm reading this book, it makes you think. And I like books, especially, nonfiction books as well. I like nonfiction books that make you think. It makes you think outside of everything. It makes you play devil's advocate, which I enjoy. I feel like that's very healthy. I think that's necessary when you're playing devil's advocate. You're asking questions. You're wanting to know more. And I think that that's important, And then it goes on to say, I think this is the last page that I was able to get. It says, is this God of the oppressed the same Christian imagining of God who would root its global headquarters in the sight of its Messiah's oppressor? Was Jesus not crucified by the same Romans who had the legal authority to and preference for crucifixion? It is comforting to assume that God's favor falls first on the marginalized. We've leaned on the promise that Jesus was sent to bring good news to the oppressed, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and release the prisoners. And that was Scripture 61, verse 1. And then it says, yet our lives and socioeconomic status within this country reflect us as the red-headed stepchild rather than the favored. Lastly, it says, while it is an empathetic sign that God would embody herself in human form among the least of us, I cannot help but wonder why generations of Black people have only experienced varying degrees of sufficiency, but never quite in abundance and prosperity. Jesus' birth, life, and death exemplified God's empathy on the side of the oppressed, but certainly there is only one example needed. It says, if we establish that God is both empathetic and sympathetic to our plight, why does it feel that we're fighting battles that were supposed to already be won by generations before us? Yes, that right there. That right there. Need I say more? I really enjoyed this book. I really did. I want to own it. I want to own it, and I want to annotate it, and I want to make notes in it, because it has a lot of questions, and it makes me want to ask these questions to other people, and it makes me want to see what they think, and does this open their minds to other things and possibilities of certain things, and a different way of I don't know, learning things, and a different way of thinking. Let's say that, a different way of thinking, and opening their minds to other possibilities and things like that, and so on. But I really enjoyed that book. It was very eye-opener. I definitely want to read more books regarding that as well, because there's a lot that has to be unpacked regarding that as well, in that particular subject. But all of these books I really enjoyed in 2024. They were all hard-hitting. Some of them were heartwarming. Some of them had me on an emotional roller coaster, but that's what I love. And I think, it had me become vulnerable. And I think that's also why I love reading so much, is because it makes you vulnerable in certain situations. It makes you aware of other things, and maybe aware of your surroundings, or it makes you understand certain things that you may not have understood at first. So that's one thing, the great thing about reading, is because you get to see, you get to look through the lens of someone else, and then eventually you look towards yourself and you're like, wow, that sounds like me, or that seems like someone that I know. It's an eye-opener. But all of these books were absolutely phenomenal. These were my top reads of 2024 by Black authors, which I really enjoyed. And I hope that y'all pick these books up if you haven't done so already. I can't wait for what 2025 has to offer and what it has to bring. Already in January, there are going to be some top reads that I'm really excited to get into. So I'm really excited. But I really hope you enjoyed this video, y'all. I know it was long, but I just want to express to y'all how much I enjoyed each and every one of these books and what they have brought to the table regarding my reading experience and what I feel like what your reading experience could be if you read these. But thank you so much thank you all for watching this video. Definitely I will leave all the links up above if you want to check out my book reviews that I've done for most of these books. But once again, thank you all so much for watching my video. Please make sure you hit that like button as well, because that does help the channel, and also hit that bell because you'll be notified when I upload more videos in the future. But once again, thank you all so much for watching my video, and I hope you are staying healthy and staying safe, and I will catch y'all next time. Bye everyone.